Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH product review. So, riddle me this. What's black and white, weighs as much as a baby elephant, and can charge a Tesla? It's the earth-shattering BLUETTI EP500 solar power station. Of course, with 5,120 watt-hours of power, built-in true UPS relay, finally, yay! And a parallel-ready inverter that can power your world. It's the groundbreaking all-in-one solution we've all been waiting for. But is it any good? Let's find out. So what comes in the box? You get the BLUETTI user manual, AC power cord. Note that there is no power brick to charge this from AC power, which is awesome. You get a generator cable, which is basically the same thing, but for hooking up a generator. You also get this connection cable, which allows you to hook two EP500s together. Yes, you can actually parallel EP500s and EP500 Pros. And I don't know if this comes in the box, but it came in mine. This is the 30 amp DC output cable to XT60 connector. This allows you to get 30 amps of power out of your DC port. And last but not least, you get the scary Medusa. Actually, it is just an MC4 cable that you can hook a bunch of solar panels up to. So this is an aviation port that goes into the EP500, and then this allows you to hook up several sets of solar panels to it in parallel. As for the user manual, it's just a few pages long, nothing important to go over, except just how hilarious it is. Because they tell you in here how to hook up your BLUETTI EP500 to 14 solar panels. I do want to quickly show that this does have a split phase mode, but it does require two EP500s or EP500 Pros, and then this box, which I am told will be available on the Kickstarter as a perk. So here's the communication cable, it hooks the two together, then you put in a plug on each of the EP500s or Pros, connects to the center box. This gives you a 30 amp output. You can connect to an RV or whatever you want. It's 220, and then you have these regular 20 amp outlets. And for those that like to ask how long it will run something, here are some examples of how long things will run. And here is the page of general specifications if you're interested. Specifications: it sports a 5,120 watt-hour automotive grade lithium iron phosphate battery rated at 6,000 cycles. That's a discharge and recharge every single day for 16 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. This actually has a 16-year life battery inside of it. Now, the reason why it's rated at 6,000 cycles, and I specifically asked the CEO of BLUETTI how they got that 6,000 cycles, he tells me that that's because whenever you charge and discharge a lithium battery slower, it has a longer life. Now, this thing has a huge battery in it, and even at the maximum charge and discharge rate that's possible with this unit, you're barely touching what the battery can do when it comes to its maximum input and output wattage. So basically, you're extending the life of the battery because you can't charge it and discharge it like you would be on maybe another battery. So Battleborns, I think, are rated at somewhere around 4,000 cycles. They expect you, especially since it's a raw battery, to charge it and discharge it at a higher rate. Therefore, it's going to wear out slightly faster. Also, this unit has the ability for you to set the charge limit on it. So you could set it to charge the battery to only 90%, and it'll go up and stop at 90%. So that means you don't have to charge it all the way or discharge it all the way. If you keep it in a sweet spot in the middle, you'll extend the life of the battery even further. Okay, size and weight. Now, this may be an issue for some of you, but it is 12 inches wide by 23 inches long by 30 inches high. It's actually higher than a lot of tables. This weighs in at 145 pounds or 66 kilograms. Yes, I said 145 pounds. That's pretty darn heavy. Most people aren't gonna be able to pick this up by themselves. So grab a friend and make it so. Number one, hernia engaged.
Engage. Shields are being drained. 90%, 80.
Now build quality, this is all ABS plastic all the way around, but there is a metal subframe inside. And as I mentioned before, it does sport wheels on all four corners, so you can roll this around pretty easily. Those wheels do lock, and they are removable. Now, as for the design of the display, it is a color touchscreen. It shows the input and output wattage and several pages of settings. This thing actually has a dual-core CPU inside. It sports an app called Smart ESS for both Android and Apple that gives you full control of all the functions via Wi-Fi, and they told me that Bluetooth will also be built into the final unit. This also has the ability to remotely update the firmware, so if there's ever a software bug or a new feature, it can be implemented via that app and installed right into the BLUETTI. This also has a peak load shifting ability to allow you to prioritize charging between solar and grid. So you can tell it, I only want to charge the battery up to 10% with power from the wall, and I want to charge up the rest of the 90% of the battery with solar. So this unit actually allows you to do that, and in that way it can save you some money. Now, as for the inverter size, this has a 2,000 watt pure sine inverter with a 4,800 watt peak. That's through 4 20 amp outlets, and this is dual phase ready to supply 220 volts at a whopping 4,000 watts if you connect two of these together. So if you join one EP500 with another EP500 and you get that box that I showed in the manual as part of a perk, you can get 4,000 watts out of this at 220 volts. That's pretty crazy. Now, of course, this has an MPP charger in it, and it supports up to, get this, 1,200 watts of solar. So technically, there are only two ways to charge this. That would be from AC wall outlet or grid power and solar. Now, they do provide a cable that comes with this that says generator on it, and that allows you to plug it into like a gas, propane, or diesel generator if you prefer to charge it that way. Like say you're in an extended power outage situation, you need to recharge this and you don't have enough solar or you don't have any solar, you can just charge this from a fuel generator. So to charge this from dead using only AC wall outlet power, or what they call grid power, will take about 9 hours. The charger that's built into this is 600 watts, no more, no less. Now that might sound like a long time, but you have to realize this battery is literally twice the size of their previous offering, the AC200P. And I'm going to show you in a bit how you can really speed this up by using dual AC chargers. And since the EP500 handles 1,200 watts of solar, the EP500 Pro actually handles 2,400 watts. So this is the base model, as they call it. Handles 1,200 watts of solar. If you're able to max out the solar on this, you'd be able to charge it from dead to full in just under 5 hours, which is less than 1 day even in the wintertime. That's excellent. Now, if you charge with both solar and AC at the same time, at the max rate of 1,800 watts combined, you can charge it as little as 3.5 hours. So that is spectacular. So as for 12 volt output types, there's a little door on the top that you open, and it exposes all the DC stuff at the top. So all the DC is at the top, all the AC is down here in the front. As for 12 volt output types, you have one 12 volt cigarette lighter socket rated at 10 amps. You have two 12 volt 5.5 millimeter or 5521 barrel plugs, and one 12 volt 30 amp high power XT60 accessory output, and this is all regulated at 13.4 volts. So all the 12 volt output on this is regulated. As for USB output types, you have dual quick charge USB ports, dual regular USB ports, and one high output 100 watt power delivery port. Note this power delivery port is not bidirectional, it is output only. As for other outputs on the top, which is nice and smooth, I was actually joking this would make a great table, you can actually set your cell phones or tablets or whatever on the top of this, and if they have wireless charging, there are a pair of 15 watt wireless charging points across the top. And as for other features, as I mentioned earlier, this does have a true UPS relay built in. So this has real UPS functionality, and not that fake pass-through stuff. This actually will send power from the wall outlet through the outlets on this and not even touch the battery, but it does depend on the settings in the situation. This thing is pretty complicated and it's very smart. It kind of figures out a lot of stuff for you. The factory settings are pretty good, but if you want to get all into it, you can really tweak this thing to do all kinds of stuff the way you want to do it. In fact, this is the first power station I've ever seen which lets you set inside the settings the level of charge you want the battery to have. Now, this does support parallel ability, so if you buy 2 of these or 2 of the EP500 Pros, you can join them together with that parallel cable for split phase functionality, so you can get 220 out of this. I can't even tell you how many times people ask me, can you get 220 out of a solar generator? And the answer is always no, until today. So yes, you can't get it out of just one, you have to buy 2. So I make that clear. You need 2 of these to get split phase 220 volts out of it. If you only have one, you can only get the 120 volt, and that's out of 20 amp sockets in the front. And as for the warranty, BLUETTI is offering a 2-year warranty right up front. I don't know if they have a stretch goal or not, which will extend that to 3 years, it's possible, but out of the box, you get a 2-year warranty. And of course, I took this beautiful piece of machinery into my laboratory and tortured the crap out of it. So I did do both a 12 volt capacity test and an AC outlet capacity test. I typically don't do that, but in this case, I knew I'd be asked to do both.
Bang, bang.
The result of the battery capacity test from the DC 12 volt output is 4,030 watt hours. That's out of 5120. That test took 23 hours at 170 watts. That was a long time to wait for those results. But that's 79% efficiency. This is virtually the same as their previous product, the BLUETTI AC200P. And I also did an AC inverter test where I tested the same battery capacity but doing it through the AC outlets. And as you can see, the results are significantly better. 4,360 watt hours out of 5,120. That's a much more respectable 85% efficiency. Now, the reason that the 12 volt discharge test on this is scored lower is due to the overhead of the 30 amp circuit. Because this can supply 30 amps from the 12 volt output, requires larger circuitry that takes more power. So as you're just idling it and running something from the 12 volt, it's wasting some power. It makes it less efficient to run from the 12 volts. Now, the inverter in this is very good. It's a very high quality, very efficient inverter, and that's why it scored so much better on the AC inverter test. Needless to say, the vast majority of you are going to be more interested in the AC output than the DC output on this. So 85% is actually very good. And now it's time to test this beastie, as Scotty would say on Star Trek. It's going to require everything you see on this table over here. I got inverters, solar degenerator, meters, chargers. This is going to be a big project, so hopefully this video won't be too long for you guys. So let's go ahead and first do the DC check. So we're going to go ahead and check all the DC outputs, which includes a 10 amp cigarette lighter, a 30 amp output hobbyist port. Basically, you can use it to wire up your RV or your trailer or whatever you want to do, like a fuse box. Allows you to run 30 amp 12 volt. We got 4 USB ports, a couple of quick chargers, a 100 watt power delivery port, and we got a couple of 5.5 millimeters. So there's a lot of DC on this to test. Let's get started. So we're gonna go ahead and plug my little load test meter into the cigarette lighter port, and let's see how many amps we can get. So there we have it, 10 amps. It's still putting out 11.6 volts, 120 watts. Let's see how far we can push it though. Okay, I can take 11. Oh. And it sounds like a forklift backing up, but there you go. You have an alarm that's triggered. It tells you 12 volt, 10 amp DC output over current. So we clear that, and it turns the DC output back on and allows us to pull it again. Now, of course, I gotta turn this down or it'll just keep airing out. And now for the fun part. I have the 12 volt, 30 amp cable that plugs into the top. I also have an old adapter from the AC200 that plugs into this XT60 connector. that allows me to convert to Anderson. This will allow me to plug into something else that'll allow me to go ahead and run 30 amps. So let's go ahead and set this up and see what kind of results we get from the 30 amp port. So for our next DC test, we're gonna go ahead and use the 30 amp 12 volt output, which requires this special aviation cable that comes from BLUETTI. Clip that in there and it snaps. It does not come loose. I am then running this with a couple of adapters into this BESTech 1200 watt modified sine inverter. I was supposed to do a review on this like a year ago. I never did, but I've had it in so many videos now. May as well be a review. We're gonna use this to convert 12 volts to AC power. And this is a little 300 watt electric heater. So this is a really cheap Honeywell, which I guess I could put on my website if you guys really want it. It does, I think, 150 watts on low and 300 on high. So let's go ahead and turn on the inverter. I have the little heater on high, you can barely hear it. Let's see what kind of results we get on the BLUETTI. You can see they were pulling 300 watts, no problem. You kind of have to look at this middle one here where it says 12 volt 30 amp output power. That's what we're actually pulling from the port right now. And it looks like it's settling down to around 250 watts. Actually, now that I think about it, it's a 250 watt heater, not a 300. So running an electric heater from a 12 volt DC port, you never would have thunk it, huh? Let's go ahead and up the game. Obviously, that is not challenging enough for the BLUETTI, so I think it's time for a little solar degenerator. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go ahead and plug it in. We don't have to worry about blowing this up. I've done this many times with this. It's never hurt it. We start on no heat with max fan. It's pulling 113 watts. Remember, you have to watch this middle number. So let me go ahead and I'll just turn this knob and increase the heat. And watch and see what those numbers say. I'm just slightly, ever so slightly turning the knob. 415. There we go, 422. So here we have our alarm. It says 12 volt 30 amp DC output over current. So it's very specific as to what the problem is, so you don't have to guess. So using the solar degenerator combined with the BESTech inverter, we're able to pull around 420 watts. If you divide that by 13 volts, that's like 31 amps. So it gives you a perfect 30 amps from that output. USB output rate check. Now there's no surprises here. The 100 watt power delivery port outputs 100 watts without any sweat. The 18 watt quick charge ports output 35 watts. Since they're parallel together, that's expected, so easily can pull 18 watts each at the same time. So you can quick charge two devices at 18 watts, no problem. Again, nothing out of the ordinary. This thing has been perfect so far on every test. We of course did a pure sine wave check under load to see how good the inverter is. Okay, so there's our pure sine wave. Let's test it under load. No problem, still 120 volts, 60 hertz. Okay, for the moment you've all been waiting for, let's go ahead and do the inverter capacity test and see how much power we can pull out of this inverter before it shuts down. Let's see how far we can push it with two heaters, heater number 1, heater number 2, and the heat gun. Let's see what we can do to this thing. All right, let's go ahead and start our run with two heaters. Okay, we're already at 1800 watts. We probably can't go much further, but let's find out. Solar degenerator engaged. There we are, we're at 2000 watts. 2100. So we're running 2200 watts right now. Let's push it a little further. 23. 24. 25. 26. Finally, I was starting to wonder if that thing was ever going to shut down. Now let's see if we can actually run 2200 watts for a period of time, because it seemed like it was holding that without any problem. Okay, we're at 2200. Let's see how long we can run that. Okay, we made it about 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes at 2200 watts before it overloaded. So it is very similar to the AC200. So there you have it. It was able to handle 2200 watts for a couple of minutes, pretty much 2000 watts indefinitely. Seems very similar to the inverter that's in the AC200, which is a very good top-notch inverter. All right, max charge rate test. Now we fast forwarded into the future. I didn't have this equipment at the original time that I did the filming for this video, but lucky for everybody, the product launch was delayed by a week. That gave me additional time to get these two items from Amazon. So this is a 1800 watt 48 volt charger, and this is a 1500 watt boost converter. So it takes 48 volts, boost it up to whatever I want. And I think in this case, it's like 100 volts. So that allows me to input a maximum amount of power into the solar input on the EP500. Now, this is basically a fake solar array. So instead of setting up 1200 watts of solar out in my driveway and trying to run cables up here and into the house, we're gonna just use this to basically simulate solar panels. So it's gonna simulate an 1800 watt solar array at 100 volts. So let's see what kind of results we get. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the fake solar array. See, immediately it bumps up right up to 1200 watts. So there we go. I actually put in 100 volts at 1800 watts, and the maximum there is about 1212 at the peak. And that's unfortunately as high as my boost converter will go, is 100 volts. There's your answer. You can pump in just over 1200 watts. So now we got 1200 watts coming in through the solar port. Let's go ahead and plug it in to the AC power. All right, you see we got almost 1800 watts. That is expected. That is what this is designed. This can take a maximum of 1800 watts. You can actually do this same thing that I did. Now this 1800 watt 48 volt charger was not cheap. It was around $230, I believe. And then this was another $30, $40. So almost $300 to charge this at an additional 1200 watts from the wall. Now, I know there's a lot of situations where people aren't gonna buy solar. Many of you aren't gonna use this product and plug it into solar, but you want it to charge quickly. So say the 600 watt charger it comes with isn't fast enough for you, you can set up exactly how I have here and charge it with the factory wall charger, and then add in this additional charger with this booster for an additional about 300 bucks. Obviously 300 bucks is a lot cheaper than 1200 watts of solar. So if you're somebody who is just going to keep this at home, or you're just going to charge it from the grid or from a generator or something like that, and you're not going to really plug it into solar, because not everyone's going to plug solar into this, this is a viable option if you want to charge it quickly. Say you have a 3,000 or 4,000 watt generator and you only want to run it for a short period of time during an outage. You can run it for an hour and power all this stuff, basically pump 1800 watts into this and recharge a nice chunk of it within just a couple of hours of running your gas generator. Another option is, say you have rolling blackouts. California has rolling blackouts all the time. They'll cut your power for a couple of hours and put it back on for a couple of hours. Well, in that couple of hours it comes back on, you want to charge this thing back up as fast as possible in case they pull the plug on you again. So in that case, you'd want to have a setup like this that charges this at 1800 watts, because basically in 3 hours, you can charge this thing from dead to full. That's amazing, seeing this is a 5100 watt hour battery pumping 1800 watts into it. Now you can do this from one outlet, but be aware there can't be anything else on that circuit. So if you're going to do this trick, make sure nothing else is on that circuit. Otherwise, you're going to blow a breaker or blow a fuse. If you're interested in this charger, or you're interested in this boost converter, I have both up on hobotech.tv/Amazon under tools. So click on tools, takes you all the way to the bottom of the page, and you can find both of these there. Now, when you are charging the EP500 from a powerful source, it will run the fans. So you can hear the fans running right now. It's not very loud at all. Let's go ahead and see how many decibels it is. Very quiet. We're only showing 45 decibels, and we're about a meter away. Now, because the Kickstarter on this was delayed by a week, it's given me some additional time to do some testing on this. I have found and reported bugs to BLUETTI, and amazingly, they've actually already done 2 firmware updates on this to fix almost every one of those bugs. So I don't really have a lot to report on the negative side of this anymore. A lot of that footage I'm just going to delete because the bugs no longer exist. So that's good news that BLUETTI has proactively been updating the firmware to squash these bugs as they are found. I also want to make note that I am going to do a separate video on the UPS feature of this because it's somewhat complicated and we're still kind of working out the last of the little tiny bugs that need to be crushed. It's 95% of the way there. It works for the 2 of the 3 modes. The advanced mode is kind of confusing. I'm still getting some information from the company about how it works, but I'm going to go through that over the next week and submit to them my findings, and then we'll see if they're going to do yet another firmware update. Once the UPS feature is 100%, I'll do a separate video on that explaining it in detail for you guys. That's going to be its own video. Also, I'm going to do a separate video on the app because the app itself is in beta. There's no point in doing a comprehensive video about the app when it's going to change significantly. They told me the interface, everything is probably going to be different. So we demonstrated charging from solar, we demonstrated charging from the grid. Do be aware that the grid charge on this is locked to about 550 watts. So it pulls about 600 watts from the wall outlet to charge this. There is no way to charge this from a 12-volt source. I will say this again. There is no way to charge this from your car, truck, van, or RV. This is not designed to charge from 12 volt. It's only designed to charge from solar or from AC power. You're not going to be able to plug anything into your cigarette lighter and charge this. It's not going to happen in this case. And you could actually hook up an inverter to your battery, maybe a 1,000-watt inverter, and then plug it into that and charge it that way. Just be aware it's going to put a huge load on your alternator while the engine is running, so it's something not recommended. This product is not really designed for van life and RVers. I'm not saying you can't use it in a van or an RV, but just be aware that you're going to have to charge it from solar or AC. There is no option to charge from external batteries or 12-volt sources, at least not out of the box. If you're really good at electrical stuff, you can certainly rig something to allow it to charge from 12 volts. Now, there is one detail about the EP500 that you must know and be aware of that's different from the AC200 or different from the Pro model of this, and that is the fact that this only charges from 55 volts to 145 volts from solar. That means you must have 3, I'm going to repeat this again, 3 solar panels in series, 3 12-volt solar panels in series to get at least 55 volts to charge the EP500 from solar. This is different from the AC200 or the EP500 Pro, and that range is 35 volts to 150 volts. So if you spend more money and you get the Pro model of this, you can actually charge it with only 2 solar panels. But if you get the base model EP500, you need 3 solar panels. I'm not going to repeat it again. I know already what's going to happen. Can I charge it from a Jackery panel? No. You have to charge it with 3 Jackery panels. Can you charge it from a BLUETTI SP120 panel? No. You need 3 BLUETTI SP120 solar panels. So I hope I made that very, very clear. So you definitely need to run this with 3 12-volt panels or a pair of 24-volt panels. And if you have a single 48-volt panel, that would work as well. So what do I like about this monstrous EP500 from BLUETTI? Well, obviously, the crazy huge battery in this thing. It's exactly the size of 4 Battleborn batteries. Now, those are also lithium iron phosphate. In case you don't know, a Battleborn battery costs about $850 a piece, unless you get some amazing deal on them. Most people pay $850 for them. So multiply that by 4, that's $3,400 worth of batteries inside this. And let me tell you right now, before you exit the video thinking this thing's gonna be like $5 grand, this is under 3,000 bucks. We'll get to the pricing here in a moment. But just let that sink in for a minute. This has 4 Battleborns inside of it. And 4 Battleborns cost $3,400, and this is less than $3,000 with everything else added in. You know, the inverter, the touchscreen, the charger, all that is included in a price that's less than the cost of the bare batteries themselves. So now that I have your attention, let's talk about the second coolest feature of the BLUETTI, and that's of course the UPS feature. This thing has a very configurable multi-stage UPS built into it. Since the beginning of the SoGen universe, all the way back in the golden years when the dinosaurs roamed in 2019, the masses have been asking BLUETTI for a power station that has a real UPS built in. And thanks to Professor Hobo, it does. And the reasoning behind it is when they were designing this thing, they put it on the drawing board, the BLUETTI CEO came to me and said, what do people want? So I told him my laundry list of features that I think most people would want in something this size. And that includes, of course, a UPS feature, which is a no-brainer, 100-watt power delivery, parallel ability, 220-volt dual-phase ability, an app, remote updates, and a whole bunch of other things. But they listened. They actually listened, and they built this from specifications that basically I gave them about a year ago. So they pushed this out pretty quick. I was kind of surprised with COVID and everything else going on when the CEO contacted me. He goes, oh yeah, we're going to be kickstarting in March. And I'm like, what? You know, you guys just had the AC200P in December. It's like 3 months later. There's still a supply issue, but somehow they're able to get these things out. So kudos to BLUETTI. They really made an excellent product in a short period of time. I'm really impressed by it. Now, the one thing they didn't add that I asked them to add was a 30 amp RV plug, because I think a lot of people who have maybe larger RVs might keep this in a spare compartment, or maybe they use this off grid. Maybe you have a location you like to camp at you'd like to roll this thing out to and plug your RV into. Now, it does have 20 amp outputs on it, and you can use an adapter and plug your 30 amp RV into the 20 amp adapter and then plug it into here. But it really would have been nice if this came out of the box with a 30 amp output for RVs, but that's the one thing they didn't give me. But just note, if you do buy 2 of these and you hook them together using that box, that does give you dual phase ability, which means you can actually run a 50 amp RV off of that with an adapter. All right, now what I don't like about the EP500, and let's just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. And I mean the literal elephant in the room. At 145 pounds unladen, this is not something a normal person can carry up and down stairs alone. You're going to need help to move it around, unless you're just going to roll around on hardwood floors or maybe office carpeting. Now, with the creative use of a dolly and 2 people, I was able to get this thing off the truck and up the stairs. We had to unbox it to get it up the stairs and basically walk it up sideways to get it up here, and it was definitely a challenge. But once it was up here on the hardwood floor, not a big deal to roll around. It rolls around quite nicely. So you might have some issues rolling this thing around in your love shack on that shag green carpet. Yeah, you may need to get something smaller to charge those toys. Note the wheels are removable, so if you plan to keep this in a fixed location, that will reduce the footprint some. Because the fans are in the front and in the back, that means the sides are flat. There's no ventilation or anything on the side you have to worry about blocking. You can actually place this inside of a large computer hutch. Now, as for my second thing that I don't care for about the BLUETTI is the fact that it's plastic. In fact, the sides are kind of thin. The top's okay, the front's pretty good. The sides are really thin and rattly. I really would have preferred at this price point if they would have just made the thing metal, or at least made the sides metal. Now, I know BLUETTI was trying to save a pound or 2 and a few bucks by using plastic, but I think we all wouldn't have cared if it was 2 or 3 pounds more and an extra $100 to have metal. Now, what worries me the most are these flimsy plastic doors, because they're very thin, they rattle around, they don't always hold. The top one, you see, it doesn't always open and it doesn't always close. The bottom one on this model is actually a lot worse. Now, I did report this to BLUETTI, and they said they're going to work on making a better plastic door for the production model. My door's a little bit warped. It doesn't like to stay closed all the time. You accidentally bump it, there it goes. It's kind of partially out. It's just an issue with the build quality. Has nothing to do with the performance of the product. The performance of this product has been excellent. I couldn't ask for anything better. Just a little chintzy there on the plastic. You have to remember this is a pre-production model. This is about 95% ready to ship. They're only going to change a few things on this between now and the time you get your hands on one. So there are a few bugs in this, but there's nothing in here that should stop anyone from throwing down on one of these today, especially at the early bird price. Between my testing a few days ago and the time I'm actually filming this, BLUETTI's CEO already told me they have plans to fix pretty much all the bugs that I reported. And they're all very minor issues. There's really no issues in this that can't be fixed by a pretty easy firmware update. And remember, updates can be done over the air remotely. So even if a bug slips into the production model, they're going to be able to stomp it out pretty quickly via over-the-air updates. So for the record, the app does work fine. You just have to massage it and talk nerdy to it. Eventually, it will be ready for grandma. Everybody is going to want to know, how much does it cost? Now, the Kickstarter begins today. Obviously, if you're watching this video in the future, the information is going to change. It's going to be different. But as of the launch of this video, priced today, when the campaign launches on Kickstarter, the early bird price is only. Now, okay, before I actually reveal the price, let's remember one fact, that this has the equivalent of 4 Battleborn batteries at $850 a piece. That's $3,400 just in batteries. So when I go ahead and tell you the introductory price of this, I want you to either gasp and pass out, or I want you to scream real loud. Scream! I want you to wake up the neighbors when you go, holy crap, I can't believe the price. Okay, so here we go. The early bird price for the EP500 is only $27.99. $27.99. That's like $800 more than their AC200P, which is like 2,000 watt hours. This is 5,000 watt hours, way more features, way more complicated. This is such a great value at $27.99. I couldn't believe that's actually what they were offering it. Now, this is the early bird price. You come back to this video weeks, months later, that price is going to change. Eventually, this is going to retail for $4 grand. Okay, so when they sell this on BLUETTI website or on Amazon, it's probably going to be $4 grand. There might be a coupon for a couple hundred off, but $27.99, folks. This price is ridiculously low. I mean, in fact, it's stupid low for what you're getting. You could literally get over 10 kilowatts of power with a 4,000 watt inverter that's dual phase 220 to power your house for under $5,600. Just buy 2 of these with a perk with that box, and you can actually get a perk that allows you to hardwire this into your house. So yes, they told me there's going to be a perk in the campaign, you're probably looking at it already, that allows you to hardwire this into your house or your cabin or whatever you want to do. Imagine 2 of these, the amount of power that you get for like only $5,600. That's way cheaper than a lot of major solar systems. A lot of those are 30, 40, 50 grand to install and get 10 kilowatts. And there's one thing you got to remember. For many of you, this might be a business write-off. If you're using this on the job site or to run power tools or anything like that, you could probably write this off as a business expense. If you're on any kind of medical machine that requires electricity, you might be able to write this off as a medical expense. Add some solar panels to this and hook this up to the grid in your home. You could qualify for that federal tax credit. You could actually get a federal tax credit that practically pays for this. So it's really a no-brainer. This is one of the very few solar generators on the market that you get that federal tax credit from if you hardwire it into your house, and they're going to offer a kit that allows you to do that. And the main reason is that this is made for basically home backup power. It's not like a Jackery. It's not meant to be carried around and put on a picnic table so that you can, have some lights while you're having a picnic in the park. This is actually meant for serious work. It's meant for powering your house during an outage. So therefore, it should qualify for that credit. Now, I'm no tax expert or anything of that nature, but go ahead and check into it. You might find out that you might be able to write this off and allow you to get a couple of them and wire them to your home and have a really serious silent backup solution. So there's one thing you got to remember. If you're in a situation where the power's down for several days or even several weeks and you're running a gas generator outside, someone's going to come steal it. Someone's either going to come steal it, or they're going to try to come into your house because they figure you got supplies, you got gas, you got generators, you probably are a prepper, and you got all this stuff inside your house. It puts you in danger. If you get something like this, you can roll this inside the house and run it from inside the house. No one even knows you got it. It's completely silent, and you can go days and days and run all their basic stuff, no problem. And yeah, you can throw some solar panels outside, maybe hide them in the backyard. No one even know that you have all this power inside. So you have to think about gas, diesel, and propane generators. They make noise, they attract attention. If you're in a long-term grid down scenario, it's going to get dangerous if you're running something like that outside and people find out about it. So heads up there. Prices are going to increase over time. I said it's $27.99 today. In a couple of weeks, it's not going to be $27.99 anymore. The prices are going to go up. So if you come back later and the price is high, you want to yell at me in the comments, I'm just going to ignore you because I've already warned you it's going to go up. Subscribe to be notified about these deals. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll catch these videos when they come out. You can jump on these deals before they're gone. You can actually also get emails anytime I put a video out. So go to hobotech.tv/blog, type in your email address, hit submit. Anytime I put out a video, I create a blog. The blog will automatically send you an email, let you know that there's a new video out, which probably has some kind of special deal. And a lot of times I slip some coupons and special deals in there that I don't actually announce on the YouTube channel. So it would actually make sense for you to go ahead and sign up for that. So that way you get notified when there's any kind of like special sale that sometimes comes out last minute. You can also join the Facebook group, the HOBOTECH crew. We've been talking about this product for quite a while inside there. In fact, we talk about all kinds of products, all kinds of solar generators and power stations. Feel free to come on over to the HOBOTECH crew, sign up, come in and chat. Now, if you want to keep this thing mobile and portable, you're not doing a permanent installation of any kind, you just want to have folding solar panels, I do highly recommend the BLUETTI panels you can get as part of the campaign. So there are going to be perks, there's going to be bundles on the campaign, which is this plus solar panels. I just suggest you just get that. Now, if you want something more robust, you're going to do a permanent install. So like you're going to put solar on your house or on your shed or your RV, you're going to mount physical panels and power this. I would normally suggest the BOUGERV 180 watt or 200 watt panels. I got them on hobotech.tv/Amazon. There's links in the description, of course. But the problem is they can't keep up with demand. Every time I make a video, they sell out and then you can't get them for months. So I do have other options on my website if you're interested in looking for more permanent glass panel solutions. I do got some deals there. So go to hobotech.tv/Amazon, click on the link that says solar panel kits. That'll take you down to the solar section. I have more solar panels coming up review, including some from Rich Solar, which are very interesting. I think a lot of you are gonna like. And I do have solar panels from other companies coming up. So I'm gonna have more options showing up on that list. So if you're watching this video later, look down there. There's probably going to be a bunch more solar panels than there are today when this video releases. So if you're interested in the EP500 or the EP500 Pro and or the solar panel packages that come with it and the perks and everything I mentioned in this video, there is a link in the description of this video. I'll say it again because a lot of people miss it. There is a link in the description of this video. I'm also going to pin a comment in the comments with a link to this product. Get whatever package suits your needs. You'll get it in a couple of months. Don't worry about all the Kickstarter, Indiegogo, crowdfunding, scare people. A lot of people were scared to invest in anything like that there. BLUETTI is a good company. It's not going to be an issue. So if you're interested, link is in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
You're getting good at it.
RV Golf Guy, Don Fullbaugh, Drew Han, and Medic Audio Repair, Andrew.